Never sleep again.
Are you afraid of the things that go bump in the night? Do you feel like a zombie after a long night of tossing and turning? Well, then try Dream from LifeWise. Just one tab daily before bed will leave you feeling rested and refreshed every morning. That's right, Dream from LifeWise. Just one simple tab placed on your tongue, it dissolves and let you drift into dreamland. Text Moose Dream to 754-600-9473 to get you started with your free samples today.
This is a warning to all living mortals. Moose will release 13 of the most terrifying interviews of horror unto the world.
Welcome back, Horror Hounds, to another installment of the 13 Horror-fying Days of Christmas. And today we have a legend with us in the form of actor, stuntman, and just all-around good guy. Please welcome Mr. Dick Warlock.
Oh, good evening. Thanks, Paul, for having me on. I like I said earlier, I don't do many of these things, but I thought I would because no one else provides a cheat sheet, and you let me know the questions you're going to ask. I didn't look at them, though. Yeah, so I'm at your mercy.
Hey, like I said earlier, I was more than happy to give that little provide the notes for the test, as it were.
Yeah.
So we'll lob one over the plate. You know, how's life? How's everything going in your side of the world right now?
On my side of the world, well, the weather's up and down as far as I'm concerned, and my family. I'm hurting like a, and and it just comes with the territory, Years ago, at Disneyland, they used to have A, B, C, and D ride, that going from very mild to a little more. And then when you got to the D ride, it just beat the heck out of you. You know what I mean? It was the roller coasters or stuff. And this was the D ride, the whole thing, the whole time I was doing this. And I've enjoyed every bit of it, but I'm paying the price now.
Well, I mean, with the career you had, I mean, at some you've had at some point, yeah, it's got to catch up to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, with that, how did you get started in stunt performing?
Well, it developed out of a childhood dream. I was the cowboy when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. I was the guy that was roughhousing with people. I've fallen out of trees, and in fact, I broke my wrist catching a baby pigeon out of the tree. I climbed up a rope, got into the tree, got the bird out of the nest, and I thought, now how am I going to get down? So I thought, well, Tarzan can grab a line and just swing off a limb. So I did that. Yeah, down I went. Boy, I hit the ground, and my wrist hit an exposed root, and man. But it wasn't too bad because the kids were playing the baseball in the street, and I was right on the other side of the curb, getting that bird, and I just went out and got into the baseball game. And when my mom came home, I told her, I said, "Mom, I hurt my wrist," and she looked at it and she said, "Unfortunately, the doctor was right around the corner." She said, "Go up to have him look at it." When I got back, I had a cast from my wrist up past my elbow, and my elbow was bent, my wrist was bent. Too bad you can't see that on video. But anyway, that was kind of like the start. And my dad, who drank a lot, and in fact, too much. Anyway, his brother was living in California and told my dad, "Gene, why don't you just move your family out here and get a new start?" So anyway, that's what happened. And when I got out there, we got there on 5 days before my 13th birthday. So that's to give you the start, our age part. Anyway, so about a year later, I was watching a television series called The Range Rider with Jock Mahoney and Dick Jones. And I wanted to double this Dick Jones because he was about my size. I didn't realize he was about that much shorter, about 6 inches. And I met him later on, years later, because he lived about 2 miles down where I lived for 20 years, and I didn't even know it. But anyway, I wrote a letter to Gene Autry Productions, who produced the show. You remember Gene Autry?
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy. Anyway, I didn't get any answers because, here I am, this greenhorn out of Ohio. So through that, I continued on. I went to a place called Corriganville, which was operated and owned by Crash Corrigan, who was an old-time cowboy star. And he built a town. He bought this lot in Simi Valley, California, and he built this nice town, and he built a Mexican village, and he had Fort Apache for the movie Fort Apache with John Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that.
Yep.
Well, that's right. That's on that same property. Anyway, I went with my uncle and looked at this place, and I thought, that's fun. And they were shooting these guns. And I saw this guy, Bob Lemon. He was changing the blanks out of his gun. And I said, can I have one of those? And he said, sure, here. And I had, for years, I had that blank. So that was 54. And then in 56, I went back with my fiance, or my girlfriend at the time. And I was falling down doing this other stuff like I did in Ohio. And we're on the way out, and I rolled down this hill. Rolled down the hill, and she said, why don't you just get down there and ask that guy for a job? Sarcastically, right? So I said, okay. So I did. I went down there, and I talked to the guy. And I'm making this a fairly long story, right? You don't want to hear all that.
Oh, no,
so
I
I'll
do.
make it short. Anyway, I met the guy. I found him in the saloon there, where they went every Saturday night or Friday night. We were there Saturday. So I said, is there any chance I can get a job here? And he looked at me and he said, listen, kid, I'm busy. Come back tomorrow or something. And so I went back Sunday. And then I did that for 3 weekends in a row. And it was 55 miles from home. So it was a 110-mile round trip for this. And single lane roads practically. And the last time I went, he said, well, you're a persistent bastard, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, do you have any Western clothes? I said, no. He said, go to a Goodwill or something and buy a vest and things. So anyway, I went back, and for 2 or 3 weeks, I worked as like an extra in the background. And he'd say, when the action starts, go find someplace to hide. Well, on one of the last Saturday, 3 or 4 weeks in, like I said, one of the characters from a Hanging of Henry Plummer scene didn't show up for work. So this guy, Jerry Vance and Bob Nixon, were doing the Hanging of Henry. Anyway, they said, we need somebody to fill in. Why don't we try this guy, Dick? So they did. And I took the shot and rolled down a hill into a little creek. And they said, and Jerry Vance said, I do Billy the Kid. I do all the lead things in these things. From now on, they're all yours. So I became a little star at the Corriganville. Anyway, I worked there for about 1.5 years, and I left. I met through Jerry Vance, who became a dear friend of mine. In fact, he's the guy that gave me the name Warlock from a movie, Warlock, with Henry Fonda. So anyway, I met Bill Ward. I went to work for him, actually, mucking stables. And he was going to do a movie, Ballad of a Gunfighter. I got the cover of it here with Marty Robbins. Remember Marty Robbins? Out in Douglas. Anyway, so I got in the Screen Actors Guild through that. Then it was a few years later, I met Walt Disney, who I didn't know it was going to make a star out of me. The director. Anyway, I won't go into all that. But anyway, through all that, I met him. Then I got in with Kurt Russell, and it just progressed from there.
Hell of a segue, because don't get tired out yet. We're just at the start of your career. I say, because you did a lot of work for Disney.
Yeah, about 10 years worth.
And I mean, without going through all the movies, I mean, just the one that pops off the top of my head is where'd it go? Escape to Witch Mountain.
Oh yeah. I didn't do it. I think I only worked 2 days on there. We were hunting these kids down. I was a hunter. Anyway, I was a hunter.
But yeah, like a decade's worth of like classic Disney movies.
Yep. I got to drive Herbie in number 2 and number 3, and I doubled Buddy Hackett and Michelle Lee and Benson Fong in the first one. I mean, that the Captain Out of Space, and now you see him, now you don't, and all those.
Is it Bed Knobs and Broomsticks?
Yeah, Blackbeard's Ghost was the first one.
Yep. I mean, yeah, movies that were not only parts of a lot of people's childhoods, but just like staples in a lot of people's lives.
Right.
You know, that's crazy. So,
well, you know what happened? I took a picture of myself over to Dick Ivey, the casting director of Disney. The next day, I got a call, and he said, "Can you get me here tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said he introduced himself, Dick Ivey, and so I went in at 7:30, and they took me over to wardrobe, and that's where they were shooting what I was doing. What it was I was putting on a uniform, and Walt was sitting on a desk behind me, well, the camera was pointed at me and then it turned around on him. But we rehearsed a little scene, and his dialogue was, "How do you make a man out of a 16-year-old boy?" Well, I was 27 at the time, but so we rehearsed it once, and he called me over and says, "Come here, son." I walked over and I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Now you're not going to upstage me, are you?" You know what that expression, for those who don't know, it's fooling around in the background and taking attention from him in the foreground. And I said, "Would I do that?" And I winked at him and turned around and walked away. Well, he turned around, my dear friend, and he said, "I'll get everything you can get on this kid. I'm going to make a star out of him." Well, I found that out 8 years after he passed away. Art told me that's what he said to it. And that was on the list for the rest of my time until, you know, how the world is changing and a lot of people are coming out of things and letting you know who they really are and all that. And they want you to join the club. And I said, I'm not into that. You know, I like my wife and my girlfriend and I'm not a little. And anyway, that was the end of my career at Disney.
Well, and, you know, might have been the end of your career with Disney, but at the same time, you had essentially locked in your career with being the double for Kurt Russell, which basically landed you a career for life. I mean,
well, my last show with him was Tango and Cash. I didn't go all the way. He did 16 or 17 more movies after that.
What's the process like because it was young Kurt? What's it like, you know, when they're setting it up to find a stunt double for a kid? Like, what all do you have to do? Is this just like, okay, I mean, I know you have to be like the same build and stuff like that, but like, how old does that work?
Well, now you're talking to me as a stunt coordinator, right? So I'm going to hire somebody to double you. Now, you look a lot like John Candy, from what I can see, right?
I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay. When Spaceballs came around, there was a young guy. In fact, I just saw him at the last show I did in Lexington, Kentucky, and he was there. His name is Bob
Elmore.
Bob Elmore.
Love that guy.
You knew that?
Yep.
Okay.
Love that guy.
So Bob Elmore, did he ever tell you about who started him? Or
he
gave him a break with Candy by putting him with Candy.
He didn't tell me who gave him the break. He just told me that he was Candy's stunt double.
Yeah. Well, I called him in the double John on Spaceballs. And that was his start with John. And he had like 9 or 10 movies with John.
Yeah.
No, he passed away. He didn't. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And I was proud to be able to do that for him.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that's what you get, somebody who looks. John, I mean, you're not a spitting image of John Candy, but you do look like John Candy. There's a resemblance. Enough of it's a resemblance that, how big are you?
6'3".
I don't know if John was quite that big. He was about 6'1", but it wouldn't make any difference. I was 5'9" in Dublin Kurt, and he was 5'10" and a half or something, you know. So it really doesn't matter. A lot of times, like in Escape from New York, I grew my hair out. And on a couple other ones I did too. But there were a few that I wore a wig because I had doubled other people who had to cut my hair short. So, you know, they'd make a wig for me and everything came. But you have to, you may be able to do this stunt very well, and maybe some others, but I need you to do something like ride a motorcycle, and maybe you don't do that. So I may have to find somebody else. So that's how it works. And the more broad you are in your capabilities, the more you work.
Nice.
And you could play a heavy with the beard or without the beard, or you could play a bad guy, and that's what usually where the stunt guys end up. They're paying, they went that way. You're dead, that's not it. Yeah.
So before we dive more into your movies, which of you had more fun with, your acting or your stunt work?
I'm not an actor. I would love to have been an actor. At Corriganville, I was an actor. I used to do dialogue with the bad guys, hey, horse or whatever, But as I moved along, well, it was at Corriganville that I got stage fright. The guy who ran the place said, "Kid, I'm busy. Can you come back next weekend?" He heard me singing an Elvis song in the sheriff's office, that's like the green room, you know what I'm saying, where everybody hangs out between the shows. And I'm singing this song, and he said, "You're going to sing that song at halftime?" And I said, "You got to be kidding!" I said, "I've never sung in my life." He said, "I just heard you sing."
Yeah, by myself.
By myself and a cappella, but not to a record. But I used to sing to records. And when I was younger, when I first hit California, well, not first, but I'll say I was about 16. I got a job I went to a roller rink about 2 miles from my house almost every Friday and Saturday night. And next door was a bowling alley, and I got a job in there washing dishes. And the waitresses heard me sing, so they would come and put money in the jukebox and play them Elvis songs. And I'd go around the tables. And you remember the movie, the one where he was in the restaurant? The guy says, "Hey, man, what do you do for a living?" "Well, I do seat covers." "Well, I want you to do." So he nagged Elvis until he got up and sang a song, and then he knocked the guy out. So it was like that. I would just sing in the place, and I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I can't remember what it was I'm sticking to. Can you?
Well, you said you weren't an actor. You're definitely a storyteller.
Well, I'm fumbling through the story too because it's nervous. It's nervous time. Anyway, I can do the little parts. Like in Coal Shack. Did you ever seen Coal Shack?
Yep.
Well, I was in the one with the Ripper, Jack the Ripper character. It was the second one that was done, I think. And I arrested Coal Shack at, near the end. He came into a little place where a girl does massages and stuff, and he started taking his shirt off, and then she identifies herself as a cop, calls me in, and I come in and I say, "Coal Shack, I always thought you were straight." Just things like that. But you get into where it's longer and more involved, I just lock up. So my son's an actor, and he says, "No, Dad, you're a ham. You're not an actor."
So you mentioned working Spaceballs. How did the Mel Brooks movies, the chunk of Mel Brooks movies come about? Because Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights. I mean, Mel Brooks classics at this point.
You missed another one or two.
Not yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember who hired me the first time, because Spaceballs. Blazing Saddles wasn't the first one that I did with him. I think there were two prior to Spaceballs, but I just got a call one day from the production manager and asking me if I was available, and I said, "Yeah." And he said, it's a Mel Brooks movie, and I'll send you a script and you check it out. So I did, and the rest was, as far as that one goes. There is an incident in there where I went to Mel and I said, "Mel, in the script, excuse me." I said, "In the script, there's a guy that gets pinched, and he's the gate guard when Bill Pullman comes up and does the Vulcan thing." And I said, "Can I do that?" He said, "Look at me." He said, "You're a stunt guy. You fall down. You don't do words." I said, "Please, let me." So I, get on bended knee for me, not literally, but he said, all right. And he gave me a look. So the step comes up. I did the thing. The next day, you know what dailies are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he and the director of photography and some other people were in watching the dailies. So dailies are over. And this is at lunchtime. And the director of photography, he came back first. He looks around. He said, you got the biggest laugh in dailies. And Mel didn't laugh. But everybody else cracked up. You did a good job. He never ever said, hey, good. I'm glad nothing. But he should have fired me on this. There was something else. There's a scene in Spaceballs where they're in the motorhome, flying through space, and they got the Queen Bee back in the back, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're talking in the front about whatever her name was, Princess Lollygag.
Vespa.
Yeah, Vespa. Well, Candy's talking about looking at the princess. He said, well, she doesn't look Jewish instead of Jewish or whatever it was supposed to be. And Mel's back in the back. He's 15, 20 feet away watching it on a monitor. And he's, can we do it one more time? And he did it again. And the way he was doing it, I could tell Mel was irritated with it. I mean, he was like, he wasn't happy with it. He wanted to do it again. I said, Mel, I think I know what you want. Now, this motorhome is up on a gimbal, a mechanism. They can make it move and look like it's really doing something. So I walks up to start up the step, and he said, hey, no. And he yelled at me. Now, I can't, no, I'm the director. You're not the director. And if no. So, okay, I said, I'm sorry. I stepped back. After lunch, he called me over and he said, listen, if I let you do it, grips are going to want to do it. The driver captain's going to want to come in here and be an actor. The electricians are going to, and I'm the only guy, the actor on the set. And I thought to myself, I'm going to get fired. I should have gotten fired. But he said, don't do that. I said, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I walked away. Yeah.
Oh, man. Before we dive into the horror stuff, you did some work on one of my all-time favorite movies, and that was The Rocketeer.
One day on The Rocketeer, come up on a porch with two other guys. We were FBI agents. And I don't even remember. I just remember going to the door, and it's only because I was watching it on film. And that was all I did on the movie. Christine, you remember Christine?
That's, again,
my name is in the credits. My name is in the credits, but I never got on film because by that time I had already had a falling out with Deborah Hill, and what a beautiful family they were with John and all everybody that was involved with it. It was like a family. And I was a member of the family, thanks to Kurt and Escape from New York. That's where I met those two people, John and Deborah. And after the falling out, the wagon wheel, with all of its spokes, meaning this producer over here and that production manager over there and this casting director over here, Warlock who? That's my throat. Anyway, when the thing is over, I was working on Dead Zone at the time. And when it was over and we all came home and so on, the production manager for the movie that John was working on called me and he said, hey, meet me for lunch, okay? So-and-so on Ventura Boulevard. So I went down there and he said, what the heck happened in Canada? I said, well, it was this, and this. And he said, you know what you've done? He said, Dick, I love you, man, but I cannot. He was Kurt Russell's brother-in-law at that time. He said, but I can't hire you anymore. And he proceeded to explain how the wagon wheel and the spokes work. It's typical in Hollywood, though.
Damn.
I thought I did. It was a matter of ethics and safety, and I thought I made the right decision, but apparently I didn't.
Pissed one person off, and yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, there's. I don't know what your political bent is, but you don't cross lines. You just don't. I'd like to see that change someday.
Yeah. It'd be nice if everyone could work well together, but probably not in my lifetime.
I don't think in mine either. Well, I'm a few years older than him.
So Escape from New York is probably this. It's not a cult classic, but it definitely has a cult following. Is that one of those movies where, like, I know people come up to you for Halloween, the Halloween franchise, but you get a lot of people for Escape from New York?
No, they're aware of it. Jaws, they're all aware of these films, but they're horror fans. They're Michael Myers fans. It's not about Dick Warlock. It's about Michael Myers. If you played Michael Myers, you're on the list. You got one your autograph. And I don't mind that, but that's the reality of it. You're not interviewing me because it's Michael Myers, right?
I like your credit list.
Well, some people have said, they'd like what I've done, and I appreciate it.
Because, you just, this and look, like, if you look at the cheat sheet, that's like a portion of your list, so that's.
I was blessed. I am blessed today to be married to a wonderful woman, and, I have 3 great kids.
And then, switching into horror, we have, Friday the 13th, New Beginning. So not only
all those came from Halloween.
Yeah.
I was in a box now, Chucky's.
Yeah, it's and I'm saving Halloween until later because I know a bunch of listeners are going to want to listen because you're Michael Myers, and I want to make them wait. You get Halloween 2 and 3, and then you get this horror block. You're in Pumpkinhead, Friday the 13th, New Beginning, Child's Play 2 and 3, Kurt Russell's The Thing. I'm sure I'm overlooking a bunch, but
probably covered it pretty well.
You carved out a huge block of like 80s horror. And what was the experience like on Friday the 13th, New Beginning?
Well, it was, I can go back a little bit. I met Stan Winston. Are you familiar with Stan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I met him on his first day in the movie business at Disney, and we became close friends. And he did a thing called Your Gargoyles. I don't know whether you've ever seen it. But he did that. But my wife and I went over to Stan and Karen's house, and Kathy and Ann and I, Ann and I, my third wife. Anyway, no, it was my second one. Sorry, it was the third one. The one I had it down. Anyway, we're working on the baby gargoyles. There's one scene where I guess there's some kids. I've never seen the movie. But Stan, meet him, and he wrote and directed Pumpkinhead. Were we talking about Pumpkinhead? No, we were talking about, well, anyway, I'm still stuck on that. Stan directed the movie and wanted me to coordinate it, so I went in and I said, listen, there's a part in there for the Clayton Heller, the guy who gets, and I said, can I do that? And he said, yeah, you got to come in and read for it, though. I said, Stan, he said, I've never seen you act. I got to see if you can do it. So I thought, I'm in trouble now. But there wasn't a lot of dialogue. But I went in and I got on my knees and begged and cried. And, I did the whole thing. And when I was finished, secretary says, cancel everybody else. I got my guy. I got to do that part. But now go back to what your question was.
What was it like? What was the experience like on Friday the 13th?
Oh, part 5. Yeah. A friend of Stan's was the director, Danny Steinman. And Danny called me in. I didn't know that Stan had recommended me to Danny, right, to do that. And so he called me in and we talked and he said, you want it? I said, yeah, sure, it's great. So it was kind of odd. He said, we need to find Jason, so he said, bring me some people. I said, I'll bring you 2 or 3 guys. Okay. Well, I knew who I wanted. Tom Morgan, and I were like that, And the other 2 guys, good stunt guys, and I knew them from our office. We're all members of Stuntmen's Association. And so they came in, and all they had to do was lay down and raise up at the waist without using their hands and having their feet come off the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How to do that. So they did it, and Danny said, "Gee," he said, they're all close, aren't they?" And I said, he said, "Which one would you take?" And I said, "I think I'd take that Tom Morgan." He said, "Okay." So Tom Morgan got the job, and have you ever heard of Judo Gene Lavelle?
Yep.
Okay. Gene and I were buddies, and I needed the guy to ride the motorcycle and get the head cut off or whatever they did to him. I don't even remember. You do these jobs, and it's like washing windows. You've seen the outside, and you left. You don't go back. And I'm like that. I don't care for horror movies. If it's not Frankenstein or Dracula or Wolfman or the creature from the Black Lagoon, and he's my favorite character. And being a fan, I got to meet the two guys that did it.
Oh.
And Rico Browning was just, we were the same height. And his underwater stuff, he did everything underwater. And the other fellow, Ben, I don't forget his name, Ben Chapman. He was the 6'1" guy that did all the carrying the girl. Yeah, so I got Gene to do that. John Woodford went through the window, and I had it was a little black kid that drove the tractor and hit Tom and knocked him down. And that was Tom's recommendation. Tom had worked with him at Universal Tours. It just shows up there on the Universal Studios.
Mm-hmm.
They had tours up there, stunt shows and stuff. Anyway, so he recommended him, so I brought him in, and he did that piece of business. And, I've got some memorabilia from some of those places, like that one, the Jason mask with the rubber head that was used in part 2, 3, and 4. I was given that one.
Oh, wow.
By one of the guys in the effects crew. I saw it in the truck. I said, "Hey, Tom, man, that's cool." I said, "I had that." And the guy said, "When the film's over this, let me know." And he wasn't the boss either. But yeah, I sold it, unfortunately, for too little money. I sold my whole Michael Myers outfit.
Oof.
Yeah, everything.
And Child's Play 2 and 3.
Those were just babysitting jobs. In fact, I was sitting in a classroom scene that Chucky came out of a closet and was going to beat somebody with a stick or something. And I'm reading a kid's book, and somebody took a picture of me. And before the movie was over, and it said something about money on the cover. And the lady, one of the producers was a lady, and she brought the book in and says, "Here, this is yours." And she said, "That's what it's all about for you anyway." And I've got a picture of me with the book.
What all scenes did you do for Tango and Cash?
Not very many. I wasn't there for a terribly long time, because what they did with me was they brought me in, put me in the clothes, put the wig on, and I'd sit there all day. And one day I had a day off, and I thought they were shooting second unit. I thought, well, I'm going to see what they're doing. And somebody else was in Kurt's clothes. And I thought, that's not cool,
It's like, why am I here? Someone else is going to be doing it.
Well, those things happen from time to time when they got 2 units and they need the director on his unit, the first unit, he needs a double for this. And the second unit director over here needs the same guy, or not the same guy, but another double, So those things do happen. So I called Kurt and we had a conversation, and he said, "Well, find me somebody else, to double me." And I thought for the rest of that movie, it didn't turn out that way. There was a misunderstanding, and it's something I've regretted my entire life that I didn't explain it to him right,
Oof.
So it's okay. It's okay. He's doing the have you been on my website lately?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the book cover?
Yeah.
He did the forward. He did the forward for the book. So, we're okay. I don't talk to him, but he's kind of a recluse. He's saying a lot of things that are political, and he's never been political. He's a vegetarian, not a vegetarian. What do you call the guy in the middle?
Independent?
Well, there's another name for nuts. sounds like vegetarian, but it's not. Anyway, he goes neither right nor left. He just when he votes, he just votes for whoever he thinks is going to do what he likes. Anyway,
It's the way to do it, though. Vote your conscience.
yeah. Well, as far as the Chuckies go, I was a babysitter and kept the kids safe. I doubled Christine Elise one time and a cop another time, but it was both in cars.
Now, I think I've made the listeners wait long enough. Okay, yeah, made them wait long enough. Let's dive into it. Halloween 2 and 3. Halloween 2, you're the Shape. You're Michael Myers. You'll always be Michael Myers. Was that just one of those, you knew somebody and they're like, hey, come do this, or how did that call come about?
Well, like I said, with Escape from New York, Kurt said I used Dick Warlock as my double, so the production people got a hold of me, told me they wanted me to coordinate the show, and so I went in and I had a nice time doing, setting stuff up like the bridge thing with all the cars and all that stuff and whatever else had to be done. And I had a guy, one of the stunt guys asked me, he said, well, how come you just dribbled over the edge of that jump? And I said, the car was supposed to break in half. Give it a reason to break in half. The Cadillac went just slick. Remember that?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's okay. But so I get the call and I go in and I finish the movie, and a couple of months later, I guess it was, and maybe it was sooner than that, somewhere between the first 2 months, I'd say, I get a call from Deborah Hill. Hey, we're doing this little movie, and we want you to coordinate. I want you to coordinate. And now John's off preparing for the thing. And so I go in, I sit down with Deborah, and she started telling me about the movie. She said, have you ever seen Halloween? And I said, no. And she said, oh, well, here's a VHS. She hands me a VHS tape, and she said, watch it and familiarize yourself with what the story is, who this guy is. It's mostly about the girls. That gave me the lead. So anyway, she said, you got to go down the hallway and meet the director, Rick Rosenthal. He's right down at that hallway. So I walked out of her office and I went off to the right down this hallway. And then on the right and there, the hallway was two offices, which had furniture in them. One of them was furnished pretty well. The last one wasn't. It had a desk, a chair, and I wanted to say that was it, except the mask was laying on the desk. And having been told about the guy in the mask, I thought, this has got to be it. So I went in, picked it up, put it on, walked to his door, and stood there and just looked at him. And he said, who are you? He said, who the hell are you? I'm Dick Warlock, and I'm here to interview for the coordinating job on your movie. I said, come here. We sat down, we talked, and I could tell he didn't care what I did. I didn't know it was his first movie. He and Carpenter were friends. They went to film school together or something. Anyway, I know Nick Castle and John went to film school together. But anyway, bless his heart, Rick, he must have really liked it, and he says he did what I did, the walk and all that stuff. I thought, when I watched the movie, I thought that walk was a little bit slow, but it is what it is. And a lot of the fans like that walk. They like this, I don't like that. I can't stand that scene. It's not my favorite at all. But anyway, I did it. It's done. But people ask me about my favorite kill. And it's not my favorite kill, but I say it's my favorite kill because they go, oh, yeah. I say, no, that's not what you're thinking. I didn't see those. And I put my hands up like, I didn't see those until the movie came out. And when I saw the movie, I went, wow, I like those. They're pretty or something. I made some comment like that. And it cracks people up. I don't have a real favorite because I liked all of them. They were all different. I don't know where I came from. I mean, I think I pinned it recently. A friend of mine wanted to see that that scene where I killed the girl in the opening. I walk over, look in the window, and she's talking on the phone to her friend Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Annie?
Yeah.
I don't know whatever her name was. Anyway, it was right after I get the knife, the Elrod knife, and the next thing I'm doing that one. Anyway, for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how she didn't see me when she came out here. You see a lot of peripheral vision. And if I'm over here, she's going to see me. So here she is here, and all of a sudden, I'm on her and cutting her throat, right? Well, the other day when I showed this to Ben, my friend, because he asked me about that scene, I see now that as she's coming out, he goes from the window over to a wall and is behind the wall, and then he comes out when she comes over. So it answered one for me. You remember that kill?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't have really a favorite. But if I had to pick one, I guess I would take the hot tub scene. She was, yeah, Pam, she was a darling. She really was. You probably heard the story. This is the part about doing one of these that really, it's hard for me to, it's because I've told the story the same. I want to say, go to Google and you can read it. You can see it. Or not Google, go to YouTube. You can see all kinds of things to find out exactly what I said there. Because you'll question me later on and say, well, you said it a little different there. Anyway, don't do that to me, folks, okay? Anyway.
Were there any, like, behind the scenes, like, shenanigans or, like, jokes or anything that were played that you can tell people about that were like memorable?
Now you have to go back to Friday 5 when Tom Morgan's standing down by a tree and he's looking up, but he says he's looking here and I'm up because I swear I'm looking down at that tree. And he says it's the other way around. So he's doing a scene where he's standing there. It's like a dream scene or something, right? So I thought, I turned around and ripped my pants down and just moved. He was under that mask trying to keep from chuckling. He did chuckle, but he's holding his body together. He tells that story all these things, like the Q&As and whatever.
Oh, God.
Anyway, now we're back over to Halloween too. No, I thought to myself, now this is memorable for me because I thought it needed to be there, but of course I'm not the maker of the movie. Sort of in the beginning, Myers comes into a room full of babies in cribs or whatever, the bassinets or whatever. And the two nurses are talking out in front of it. If you're the camera, they're talking out here and I'm back here. And then I cross the hall. But they didn't see me. I went from this room where the babies are, because you can hear them making little noises and stuff. I thought I should actually reach down, like go for them, and then just pat one of them, bring it right up to the edge, and then let it go. And I don't know whether that would have played all that enough. But they never even focused anything with it. Nothing. I don't think they ever filmed them.
Well, and then
what else? The fire stunt, I like that. The crash into the van, that was fun. And putting Patrick voice on the hood of the car, he has to walk out. When we found out, I read about it, but I had forgotten. But when we went in, we're going to do the police car hitting Bennett Tramer. So okay, so Jackson. I don't want to hit this song. Let's put a catcher, like a 12-inch board, and hang it on the front end of the car, about that far off about an inch off the ground. And Jack is going to walking backwards, and then he turns and he takes so many steps, and then I'm there, boom, and he just steps down on the board, and then falls over. Of course, the momentum is he's going one way, and I'm going the other. So I think I was 12 or 14 miles, 15 miles an hour, if that. And we did that thing. The only thing that caught my eye when it turns on the police car, the lights are going, well, they don't do that. And the reason that happens is because they undercrank it, and then when they run it up to speed, it flickers. I don't know whether you've noticed it or not. You know the scene I'm talking about,
yeah.
man? Yeah. they could, because they cut from that to him slamming down on the hood, and then it's a wide shot of running the car into the van, all done separately.
Yeah. So you play Michael Myers in Halloween 2, and then Halloween 3 is a completely different movie.
Mm-hmm.
What was that switch like? Going, I mean,
it's funny. He's almost the same
like,
character.
Yeah, say going, playing this like same character in a different, basically in a different setting.
Yeah, and now I tell people, have you seen Halloween 3? Well, yeah. I said, well, you're seeing Michael Myers without his mask. He walks the same way. He doesn't talk. He sneezes in the elevator. Because it's like, yeah, in the elevator. And you know what I mean? It's all Michael Myers. And that's the way they wanted me to do it. Tommy Lee Wallace, who was actually every action scene you saw in the original Halloween, and I'm thinking, I always go back to the closet scene where he's broken through, and she stuck him. And now when now they cut back and the girl is in the background and he falls down on the floor. Jamie Lee's over here at the doorway, right? The next time, right after that, you see him raise up in the background, and she's there with the little boy. She's just sent the little boy across the street. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. When I watched that video, I couldn't hang my hat on anything. And we just did a Q&A, and Nick is sitting right here. And I said, excuse me, but I didn't get anything from what you did. It was what Tommy Lee Wallace did. And anyway, I always thought it was Nick that did it. It wasn't Tommy Lee Wallace. For years, I was saying it was Tommy Lee Wallace. It's like, I've always thought in my mind, I did that burn 2 times. I rehearsed it once. And got Billy, my son, was one of my safety guys, and he heard me say that, and he said, "Dad, you only did that burn once, man. That's when you burn your arms, and no, once." So I try now to correct as I go along. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm messing up. I only did it once.
You're supposed to, say you did it more times as the story goes, not do it less. It's a fishing story. It gets bigger the more times you tell it.
I see. Yeah. Well, hey, listen,
I did that burn 12 times.
Well, I did one. I did Firestarter.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Adams. Not Nick Adams. Another Phil Adams and I were the 2 guys that you see predominantly in the front. There was another guy there. He was off to the side pretty much. But yeah, we did that. I did the Hindenburg. When they did that movie, I fell out with Jack Boys, but out of the nose cone of the ship, the blimp.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the videos of that accident, you can see 2 bodies come out, go down to the ground. They fall out of the nose cone. So I did that one. I did another one. What was it? It all runs together after a while.
I bet. 53-year career. I mean, a lot of bumps.
Yeah.
Bumps, burns.
Rollerball. The original rollerball is where I tore my shoulder up the first time.
Oof.
Craig Baxley.
Well, Mr. Warlock, this has been an absolute pleasure.
This is it? You done?
Am I done? No, but we could go on for days.
You really got a time.
Where can listeners keep up to date with you and check out your book and all that stuff?
Well, if you go to dickwarlock.com and you look about 3 sections down, the book is there, and it has a Q code down in each corner. If you take a picture of that Q code, you get on the list, and you'll know. There's 2 people that are doing the book, and they'll keep you up on it. I hope they're keeping people up on it. They're doing the book, and it started out great guns, but they both went to work, and I mean their jobs are long. I'll tell you a little story, but you don't have time for it.
Oh no,
maybe some other time. Yes, it's back in 1984 when we did Firestarter. I get a knock at the door. In my dressing room trailer, it was a honey wagon, and there was a bunch of rooms in it. But I get this knock, and these kids introduce themselves. They're teenagers, 17 and 18, no, 15, 17 years old. Were fans of Halloween and all that stuff. and we'd love you to come to our house and meet our families, our parents. And so they put me in the car, and when I was finished working close to it anyway that evening, and we went to all three houses. And one of the three, I don't know whether we went back to one, but we had pizza and watched their homemade horror movies. And they all said they wanted to be in the business in some way or another. One wanted to be a cinematographer. One wanted to be a stunt guy. The other guy, he didn't know what he wanted to do. Well, he ended up being a driver captain, which is the head guy over all transportation for the film. We're picking up actors and driving, seeing who's driving the grip truck and so on and so forth. The other one became not a director of photography, but a videographer. Worked for NBC doing all the NASCAR races, all kinds of other stuff. So he was a success. He said he's glad he's got that instead of the other job. And the guy that wanted to be a stunt guy, he became a stunt guy in Wilmington, North Carolina. And he is a second unit director. He's a stunt coordinator. Last year, he was nominated for an Emmy, a daytime Emmy, for a series that he did. And they came to me and said, we want to do your life story. One of them, the video guy, he videoed for 2.5 days at my house, my story of my life from the same story I told you about 13, wanting to be a stunt guy and all that crap, stuff. And I don't know. Hey, they're writing the book anyway. They came to the house and they did the videography thing, and then together the two of them are doing the book. And that's really a bigger job than I ever thought it was going to be, because it was up to me to gather all the information. And so anyway, I've enjoyed this, Paul. I'm glad you had me on, and I'm glad I could talk to the fans and get them straightened out about that fire burn would be done one time. And I busted my shoulder on the rollerball I started, and the other one was on a movie called The Relic, which is another kind of scary sort of movie.
Well, and yeah, I'm gonna have to have you back on, because like I said, we barely scratched the surface.
Well, really, we have. I think the highlights. I don't know anything else. I really don't. I maybe if I go down a sheet, or my IMDb list or something, I might remember some things.
Well, I figure book comes out, we'll have you back on, talk about your book.
Okay. Tarantino, that was his name. I was doing a thing called was it Toby the Gorilla? Toby Gorilla. I don't know what it was. I just know that this guy was up in a tree house, and I'm down here looking at him, and hey guy, I wiped he had coke running out of his nose. Anyway, but there's a lot of little things like that. I had an actor bring me a whole bunch of film. Can you get this developed? Well, probably. I know a few guys that can do that kind of stuff. It's all porno.
Oh, wow. Listeners, I'll put the link to his website in the episode description. You can find me and other great podcasters over at electronicmediacollective.com, or be sure to follow Moose's Monster Mash on Facebook and Moose Media Inc. on YouTube. And again, Mr. Warlock, this has been fun.
I'm glad you're having a good time. I had a good time.
And
I wish I was younger. My brain and my mouth would get together better. As I get older, I'll be 85 in February, and it's starting to go.
Unfortunately, time takes away time's undefeated.
Yes, it is. But there's a lot of people out there that are 100 years old and they don't have that problem. And there's people that are younger. Look at Biden. Was he 77?
Mm-hmm.
And he's farther along than I am, a lot farther. So it can hit you at any age.
Yeah. So it's brutal. Thank you again for coming on. Book comes out, I'll have you back on. We can talk about the book. Go over to his website, sign up so to keep an eye out for his upcoming life story, and come back tomorrow for another installment of the 13 Horror-fying Days of Christmas. And until next time, Horror Hounds, mash on.
This has been Moose's Monster Mash. Come back for more chills and thrills if you dare.